Hello and welcome to the premium editing and learning tools for photographers. My name is Diana Kot, and together with MCP Actions we help to improve your photography and editing today. In this lesson I want to show you one of the best techniques of skin retouching. If you learn how to apply it, you will be able to create high-end beauty portraits and act like a pro. This method is called frequency separation technique. The main idea of this method is that we divide color and texture of our image and work with it separately. So here is the image we are going to work with. You can see we have here some obvious pimples and spots. It will be very easy to remove them with healing brush tool. Instead of ordinary healing brush, you can use spot healing brush. It is very easy instrument. You just click on the blemish you want to remove and it's done. But it should have some very good surroundings to match. It's very quick instrument, but of course ordinary healing brush is much more flexible and professional. You can directly show it where to take your sample. Just press on this area holding Alt or Option key. While you draw, you see this little cross that shows you where we take our sample. And another great advantage, with ordinary healing brush you can work on the separate layer. Just select current and below mode. So let's stay with this result, it already looks better. But we still have here some imperfections on this picture, which not so easy to remove. Like for example, this heavy shadow and texture under her nose. So let's start with preparation of our picture. For this technique, you should have two copies of exactly the same image. One is for the color, another one for the texture. Switch off the top layer and select bottom one for the color. We want to have only color of our skin here, not texture. For this purpose select menu Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Make radius 0 and select some area with heavy texture. Just click with the small square on this area and you will see it in the window. And now slowly increase radius. You need to stop when our texture disappears. But don't go too far. If you blur it too much, it will be very difficult to work with, and also you will have some extra color on the texture layer. Let's check other parts of your face. Be sure we don't have any texture here, and press OK. Now select top layer for the texture. To extract it, go to the menu Image, Apply Image. You need to subtract layer 1, layer with the color. So select this layer and select Blending Mode, Subtract. Also be sure that you have here settings opacity 100%, offset 128 and scale 2. In this way we get perfect result. And you can see we have layer with the texture only, no color. To combine these two layers, we need to change blending mode of the texture layer to linear light. And this is it. We have our original image again. Let's group them. Select both images and press Ctrl G. And you can see that we have here the same image, same sharpness and color as before. But now we have texture separated from the color. Let's start with the texture. The main idea is to replace bad texture using areas with a good texture. We are going to use Clone Stamp tool here. Make sure that you work on the current layer, so we don't sample any color. Also your opacity should be 100%, and also make sure that you work with a hard brush. We don't want to see any blurry mess on the texture layer, we don't care about color, so hard brush is our choice. And now start to sample good smooth texture and replace bad and heavy texture. Just be sure that you sample different spots. We don't want to see any strange patterns and repetitions here. In the same way we can remove these small hairs on her nose and these hairs under her lips. Looks much better now. With this technique, you can also remove some small hairs, since we have them only on the texture layer. But if this hair is very visible, you also will have some trace on the color layer. We are going to remove it when we work with the color layer. Let's also remove this wrinkle under her eyes and some spots on her forehead. It should not be too perfect. If you smooth all texture completely, it will just look very unnatural. As for me, I don't like these plastic over-retouched images. I think there should be some natural imperfections. By the way, if you have some other parts of the skin on your picture, you can also work with it. You can investigate hands, for example, and also remove here some hairs and blemishes. Now let's move on to the color layer. There are a lot of techniques how you can improve it. Be creative and experiment. For example, if we have some spot we don't like, we can select it using lasso tool. Be sure that feather of your selection is something like 7 or 10. And now just blur the spot using Gaussian blur filter. We don't care about texture, so it looks very natural. Let's do the same for the next spot. And since we use the same filter again and again, Gaussian blur with the same radius, you can just use shortcut Ctrl or Command F instead of selecting filter every time. When you work with color, you can suddenly see some problems with the texture, so go back on the texture layer and fix it. There is no golden rule how to work with it, so you can work at the same time with both layers. Let's continue fixing these spots on the color layer. I don't like the shadow on the nose and near the eye. Let's also remove hair trace and soften shadow under her lips. You can see it already looks better, but we still have some problems with the color. For example, this shadow under the lips is too heavy, and this shadow under the nose. I can't just blur it, because we have here the border between different color areas. But because I work with the color, I can just take a brush and draw here anything I want. Let's create new layer over the color layer and take a brush. I want to use some small color changes, so I set opacity and flow to 20%. You may use some other numbers, just make sure that your drawing looks natural. And now I will sample light color and draw over the shadows. You can easily draw too much and get strange result, but we have our drawing on the separate layer. We can always make opacity smaller, draw with another color, or simply delete it and draw again. And now with this brush, I will just lighten areas that are too dark. I can also add some colors to these areas. I can even completely draw everything from the scratch, creating new colors, new lights and new shadows. Let's make second cheek lighter. I also don't really like that our makeup don't have smooth gradient. I can also fix it here. Just sample dark color and blend it to the light color. And take light color and do the same. If you like mixer brush tool, you can also experiment with it in this technique. And let's do the same with another eye. Let's look at the result before and after. What is great about frequency separation technique? You can combine it with dodge and burn technique if you want to sculpture your face more. Draw cheekbones, correct nose, forehead, and so on. Once again, just don't be too crazy about it. We want everything to look natural. I also want to make some correction to this eyebrow. I can add color on the color layer and copy and paste more hairs here on the texture layer. And I think I'll stay with this result. I removed all blemishes and spots and corrected shadows and lights I don't like. What is also great about this technique? It's not only for skin, but basically you can use it for any surface. You can see how easily I remove the wrinkles on the fabric, just smoothing color layer. Let's see before and after. Now it looks much more accurate. This is it. Thank you a lot for your attention. I hope you liked this video and found it helpful. My name is Diana Kot, this is MCP Action, and we hope to see you in the next lessons.